Check me out. Yeah.
Hi guys, do you like podcasts? Glad to hear that, because you are currently listening to the Mile High Mentors podcast. I am your host each and every episode, Connor. My name is Connor Doobie, and we are here each and every week to bring you the top insights, information, resources, and mentors that are here in the incredible state of Colorado, hence the name Mile High Mentors. So really appreciate you guys tuning in, whatever platform you're listening on, whether it's iTunes or Spreaker or Stitcher or SoundCloud, wherever you're tuning in, please give us your feedback. We would really appreciate it. It is how we continue to progress and grow this podcast. And by the way, speaking of iTunes, we just launched. We were just accepted on to iTunes recently, as in within like the last week or something like that. So to celebrate, we are giving away a $50 gift card to Amazon. Ideally, by the time you're hearing this podcast, you're going to have a week or so to subscribe for that or to enter to win that. We're going to be giving that away on the 20th. So all you have to do is go to our iTunes page, subscribe, and leave a review about the podcast, and you'll be entered to win. I just checked it earlier today, and your chances are looking pretty good so far. So in addition to that, it's not the only giveaway we're going to do. In note of that, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, on YouTube, and we're on every social media platform. LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn. You can also follow me on those platforms if you would like. And we're going to continue to do lots of fun giveaways and promotions as we continue to grow the podcast. So again, thanks so much, guys. Do you sell services or products? Do you sell services or products business to business? If so, our partners and sponsors of the show at Active Blogs, they are the go-to for B2B marketing. And so be sure to check them out at activeblogs.com. They are a great resource. You can go get a no-cost expert consultation. Our guest today is a marketing industry leader, and he is very big in the branding, merchandise, apparel industry, products. Not only that, our guest today is a big thinker, and that's part of the reason why I brought him onto the show. My hopes are, as you're listening to this, that this will encourage you to also expand your what you think or deem as possible with whatever it is you're trying to accomplish with your life. Becoming a big thinker is going to serve you a lot of positivity. And so that is why I brought Ted Church. He is the founder of Anthem Branding. He's been here in Colorado for quite a few years, has had some really immense success in the marketing industry. And me as a marketer as well, it was fun to kind of nerd out and talk about that for a little bit. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Ted Church. Please welcome him to the Mile High Mentors podcast. And we're rolling. Thanks for coming on the show.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you here. So how do you get connected with the brands that you work with? Because you work with some pretty cool players.
Yeah. I've been in the game 25 years, so a lot of it is word of mouth, referral based. We work in a lot of different industries. People within those industries move on to different companies and opportunities and think of us. So that's one way, and then our content marketing has gotten us in front of a lot of people as well and gotten us noticed. Whenever we get in front of somebody and give them our story and show what we do, the response is always, where have you been? This is exactly what we've been looking for.
Really?
So I can't clone myself and be everywhere at once. So, getting good content out there and meeting people where they're at when they want it has really helped us as of late, for sure.
Yeah. How do you what do you do as far as content production? Like, what's the major stuff you guys
most of it's
put out?
blogging about solving a need, identifying who's the right target audience for us, what's that buyer persona look like, what can we do to help them do their job better, and then instantly that puts us in sort of an authority position, and then they go to our site and they see kind of how we present our work, and then they decide they want to work with us.
Yeah. What is the story? You said story behind the agency or company. What is that story then?
Starting Anthem Branding. I mean, I've been in the game for 25 years. I ran another company for about 13. Decided, kind of had a split with a partner. We decided we wanted to go different ways. I wanted to run more of an ad agency approach and take sort of a really heavy, creative, design-driven approach to promotional products and apparel. And so started Anthem with this idea of creating a best-in-class agency that really addressed promotional products and apparel with an anti-tchotchke approach. So started that 12 years ago and have grown it since.
Yeah. And where are you guys at now?
What do you mean?
As far as what are you doing revenues now? What are you doing employees?
So we're an 8-figure company. We have 30 employees. We're based in Boulder, big national reach. I'd say 70% of our business is out of state. Oh, okay. We work with big national brands.
Any brand? What are some of the brands that people would?
Google, Atlantic Records, a lot of ski and snowboard industry, a lot of bike industry clients, some entertainment industry. Big brands in every, a lot of brands like Chipotle, brands like...
do you do their PR? Chipotle's PR?
No, we don't do PR. A lot of promo, branded items,
Gotcha.
So, and then we do a lot of lifestyle brands, helping them with their product lines, from bags, designing bagware, to promotional products they hand out, to maybe brand ambassador gear that they're using.
And you're shooting. This really caught my attention when we talked on the phone before. You're looking to build this to $100 million agency, right?
I mean, that's a sort of big, hairy, audacious goal. Sure.
Yeah. How are you going to do that? How are you going to accomplish that?
Right?
It is. I mean, yeah.
Well, I think what's interesting is, everybody we get in front of the reaction is, where have you been? This is exactly what we're looking for. And I'm working in a $22 billion industry, and there's 30,000 companies that distribute products.
Yeah.
We're the only ones really truly making custom product where we translate the ethos of a brand onto a product that's authentic to their sort of demographic. No one's doing it like we're doing it, and so the sky's the limit. It's just a matter of getting in front of the brands that we want to target and work with, and having them understand really what we do and the value we add, and then it's just literally a matter of getting out in front of the right people and making that happen.
So how does that work with the company? Like, they come to you and they are they want to develop out a new product, or they want to brand a new product.
Could be any number of things. Because we're a branding and a merchandise agency, it could be we need to build a brand. We need to design, come up with the name and the identity and the look and feel of what we're trying to achieve.
So this is startups too?
Yeah, a lot of startups.
Oh, okay.
A lot of existing brands that maybe have been in the game 10, 15, 20 years, and it's time for a brand refresh. They'll come to us. And we help them sort of navigate and take a look at the competitive landscape and where they're positioned, and maybe where the white space is and how we can position them to be different. So that might be one area we help a brand. Another area might be, we've got a trade show coming up and we need to target an audience with some effective product, promotional products or apparel. We've got to outfit our brand ambassadors in the booth. We've got to design the booth space. So we'll help with that. We have other clients that need to sell retail product and design a product line. So we may help them with a bag line, or we might help them with hoodies and tees or hats and that sort of thing. So we can kind of play in any one of those areas, or all of them. We can help them build it from scratch, or we can just sort of help them amplify their messaging sort of with a product that actually resonates authentically with the client they're trying to engage with, instead of the me too, slap a logo on it.
Yeah. So a lot of creativity involved.
Yeah, big time.
Do you yourself, work a lot of the creative for your clients, or do you have someone on your team who's kind of the...
So we have 14 full-time designers that literally can design any aesthetic. We've got an amazing creative director. I act more as an account director and managing a lot of the relationships. I have a great design eye, but I don't actually sit down and move the pixels, so to speak. Yeah. But definitely help with some creative direction and have a sense of what's going to resonate with the client. And then our team, it's really a team effort to give them exactly what they want. Okay. Yeah. And where are you from originally? Kind of all over. I spent my elementary years in Tampa, Florida, and then my dad had a job opportunity up in Ohio, so we spent my middle school and high school years in Toledo, Ohio, and then I came out to Boulder for university, and I never left.
SCU?
25 years later, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So you're born in Florida, though?
Born in, actually, Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Chi-town. Yeah. My family's out there. Great. All on the south side of the city.
So and it's funny, we've got a lot of Midwest Chicago people in our office, and at one point...
There's a lot of Chicago
really
people in Colorado.
And at one point in the last few years, we had 3 different people in our that were working for us that went to the same high school, but different generations. So they never crossed paths. Totally random.
That is really random.
Salt of the earth, I guess.
Yeah. Gotcha. So your dad worked for a company. Were they Were your parents entrepreneurs?
No, my dad was a Fortune 500, worked for Owens Corning Fiberglass, and had been there right out of grad school for 22 plus years. And my mom has an entrepreneurial spirit. She's done a bunch of different things, from little cottage industry type businesses to real estate to interior design. She's currently a home stager in town in Denver here.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, didn't grow up much with an entrepreneurial sort of background,
or was there
necessarily influence? I was always sort of a natural born salesman. Had my own lawn mowing business at 12 years old, and mowed all the neighbors' yards, and it was a good way to make some money. And then in high school, I sold vacuum cleaners.
Nice.
These 23
door to door.
Yeah, it was a system that was a water.
So you walk up, toss dirt into the.
A little bit of that. There was it was a $2,300 system, and the funny story is the. You're supposed to cold call on your warm market, so you go to your parents' friends, get their names, and set up meetings to do work on your pitch. And I went 6 for 6 in sales and hit all the sales accelerators, and then sort of dropped the mic and called it a career on vacuum cleaner sales after I got all my commissions. And I spent the rest of the summer in Europe, which was really fun. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And how old were you at this time?
I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and so. I think at that point my mom realized I would be fine because I could sell anything. So
sales. Yeah. You're just natural born salesman.
Sales was where it's at. I just like dealing with people and solving a need.
And that just came totally natural to you.
I think it just suits my personality. It was always something I enjoyed. So then I went on to the University of Colorado, and I realized at the time when I was a freshman that they just didn't have great product with CU logos on it. And at the time I had an uncle in the business in Oregon selling equipment, sports equipment and apparel up and down the West Coast, mostly to universities. He was a former professional athlete, baseball player and baseball coach, and got into that game. And I called him up and said, hey, there's really not great merchandise here. I want to do some product. Will you help me out? And the first idea that I came up with was doing lacrosse shorts with the CU Ralphie logo, but instead of CU in the middle, I would put the fraternity and sorority letters in there, and I'd go around all the houses, and I'd say, hey, Connor, if you introduce these lacrosse shorts to your buddies at your meeting, I'll give you a free pair. Sell these for $25 each, and I made a couple of grand. Paid my uncle and realized, hey, this is great beer money and spending money at college. And then that led to doing some more game day T-shirts. And then CU came calling and said, hey, there's a little thing called licensing. You don't have one. You better get one. So I looked into that, and then I ended up partnering with, met through a series of people. I met a guy who had a business started up in Boulder already. And so I ended up going to work for him selling product and apparel to all the campus clubs and organizations, and eventually became a partner in that business, and we ran it for 13 years, and then eventually sort of parted ways and kind of wanted different things out of the business, and that's when I started Anthem.
Gotcha. So this company no longer exists, or
it's still
Anthem's
around up in Boulder, but we're completely different apples to oranges business, and so Anthem Branding we launched in 2006 and kind of been hitting the road gangbusters ever since, and building our reputation and working with a lot of great clients nationally and sourcing a lot of product internationally, and so it's been really fun just building that organization from the ground up and shaping the culture and building a great team of people that you kind of give them the ball and let them run with it in different areas of the business. So it's been quite the ride. No, it's not over yet. It keeps evolving. It's really fun, and every day is a new challenge, and it's we always, like my business partner and I like to say, there's every day we have victories and challenges, but it's every day is unique. And in your professional career, because personally I think this is really important, I ask all my mentors on the show this, like, what's the biggest failure you've had in your professional career? Tough to say. There's a lot of little failures
or biggest challenge
you can kind of learn from.
Biggest challenge, biggest failure.
I think having a partnership split up was something that was certainly a challenge, and there was a lot of learning curve to that, and we had a lot of great years at our old business and a few not so great years, but ultimately moving on to start the new business and bring sort of all my energy to that was super rewarding, and I wouldn't change anything. There's always challenging. Learning when you're managing people and you've got 30 different people's needs and figuring out what motivates each one of them, and then you're balancing the client's needs, and it's a deadline-driven business, and there's always something that happens. There's always a fire to put out, and so I think, those are challenges that just sort of add up. And I think it's, as an entrepreneur and as somebody who's been in this deadline-driven business for 25 years, there's always a fire. So you can't get too high and you can't get too low. You got to be pretty even keeled and just say, all right, what are we up against? Let's deal with it and figure it out. So.
Yeah, you seem like a pretty mellow dude. How do you keep yourself kind of even balanced out with all those fires you're putting out all the time?
Some of it's mindset, right? And some of it's being healthy, getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, having perspective on what you're actually, what are you dealing with? We're not curing cancer per se in what we're doing, and most people are really excited to promote their business, and but at the same time, a lot of our clients rely on us to make them look really good, and their companies are relying on them to come through. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make that happen. But I think it's just being really professional, prepared, thinking 10 steps ahead, learning from, make a million mistakes, just make them once, try to continue to improve. And, we always post-mortem things that, what went well, what didn't, what would make this look easy if we could do it again next time. So I think it's just that sort of constantly moving forward, but constantly learning from the past. And we certainly don't always have it figured out, and we're always trying to improve it. So
right. Did you have mentors early on in your life, people that kind of you always looked up to, and maybe not even necessarily directly through direct mentorship, but not everyone becomes the type of entrepreneur that you are today. What kind of influence did you have?
It's funny. I think when I was in my 20s, I knew everything.
Yeah.
And I say that tongue in cheek a little bit.
We don't.
Exactly. And then as I got older, and then I had children, and when I started Anthem Branding, I kind of realized, man, I don't know anything. And so I really became a student at that point. I was never much of a student leading up to that. I was really C's and skis, get degrees. I say that. Yeah. I laugh about saying that, but it was really true. If I was really passionate or interested in something, I did well. If I wasn't interested in this subject, I couldn't really be bothered.
Right.
But when I started the new business and had children, I sort of started realizing, man, I don't really know anything. And then I started really reading a lot. I started listening to a lot of podcasts. reaching out to people that I admired in the community or in business and started picking their brains and sort of started building my own personal board of directors almost, my own sort of advisors of people that I would go to seek advice. And, it's humbling as you get older, and that's where I laugh. When I was in my 20s, I knew everything, and then as I get older, I realize the less I know. And I don't think that, I feel like literally the older I get, the less I know. But I want to learn everything. And so I have this sort of insatiable appetite to read as much as I can, talk to as many people as I can to learn. And that just works for me. That's kind of my vibe on that. But
well, it's really interesting. Like, I feel like a lot of people at some point they decide they get done with school or high school or probably, I know adults that are in their 40s and 50s and they stop learning. Like, stop learning at some point. Like they're at some point everything. Right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it goes down to the mindset thing. I get fueled by trying to figure out new things or get a new perspective. Or,
and you have to have that, right? To grow. Like, you really have to have someone who's done what you've want to achieve and be able to, like, pull that information down.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, while $100 million business is an aggressive goal, and as you mentioned, I mean, I don't know if that's really our goal, but I love the idea of it. But I've never been there before. I've never taken a business that far. I don't necessarily know what it takes to. I don't have a playbook, so it's in sort of each area of growth. When you're at 0 to 3 to 5 to 10 million. There's different things that need to go into those businesses. So learning about different areas where you need to figure out or you need to get advice on, or I think has been invaluable to. And there's so much at your fingertips now. I mean, you can obviously reach out to people, but now there's a million ways. And I tell everybody between Twitter, Medium, blog posts,
we have unlimited access to everybody,
and somebody can articulate it way better than we can.
Right. Yeah. This is part of why we're doing this thing too. Is I hear my peers complaining all the time. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, or I can't get connected with this person. I'm like, you can. You have unlimited access to everybody. You just have to go ask. And that's part of what I, with the show too, like bringing in mentors like yourself to show like, look, they're accessible. They want to provide information and value. You just have to go ask. Yeah. Right?
No, I agree with that. And I think you have to get creative and you have to add some value. But yeah, you want something, you need to ask for it. And for the most part, people were in your shoes at one point.
Right.
And they want to give back. I mean, hopefully you want to pay it forward, right? So I'd love to help somebody if I can, just from my past experience, because I want to be helped when I need it. And you learn both sort of up and down the chain from people. So yeah, I think always striving to just learn new things is that keeps you young, I think, for sure.
Right. How what advice would you give to people as far as like finding a mentor?
I think, figuring out what you want, or figuring out sort of what are you looking for, networking, asking around, maybe the mentor is someone actually in your community. Maybe it's listening to, somebody that has great guests on, if it's Tim Ferriss, for example, if he's got amazing guests that you can learn something from or pick up a little nugget and read their book. And
is he someone you follow pretty closely?
I think he's an amazing interviewer and always has great guests. Even if I just at first blush on the the title of the guest, if it doesn't seem interesting to me, I still listen, because there's always something that comes out of it that's a nugget.
Right.
That's kind of cool. But I think, you have to put yourself out there and you have to meet different people. You can't just call someone and say, well, you mentor me. I mean, you need to have a dialogue and then add value to them somehow. And but I think you just have to try different things and reach out to different people and
that's
get
important
creative.
too. You said add value. I think that is really important. Like what do you mean by that? I guess elaborate.
Well, I mean, it's not just, can we have coffee so I can pick your brain? People are really busy. I mean, some people will say yes to that, but is there somebody you can introduce them to that they may need help with? Or they, if you're a young sort of up and coming person who maybe you have a lot of experience in writing content, and the person you're interested in talking to doesn't have any content on their site, maybe you could offer to do some content for them, or just you've got to get creative. It depends on the situation. There's a million ways to do that, but not just take. You've got to also give something back to the person,
right? And
that maybe that's not in the moment, but there's an opportunity in the future, and never burn a bridge,
right? Well, I think it's
it all connects at some point.
Yeah, never burn a bridge. Yeah. That's pretty important. Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people get out of school, like I said, going back to my peers, get out of school and can't find a good job, but I think the challenge is they're not finding ways to add value, and they're not willing to work for free for a period of time to maybe build a career or basically eat dirt for a period of time just to get their foot in the door in the right career path. And I've always found that super fascinating. That's a total digression, but what are your thoughts on millennials in the workplace right now? Because you work with quite a few, and I think we had some dialogue about this before.
Yeah, I think we have 19 people under 30 in our business.
Yeah.
I think the whole millennial, the sort of dissing a millennial, I think is completely unfair. I think I got a little bit of that coming out of college as a Gen X person. It's we're lazy. But
it's almost every generation above shits on the generation below for some reason.
And, and people don't know what they're talking about. And certainly, obviously that's a gross generalization, and there's a stereotype to that. And there's certainly some people that tick that box, but everyone who we encounter, really creative, really smart, wants to add value. They want to know the why of what you're doing. They want to be really invested. They work really hard. Our team of the younger millennial generation works their ass off. They do a great job. They're very creative. They really truly care, and they and I think they get a little bit of a bad rap from. Frankly, I just think it's a little bit unfounded, a little bit unfair.
Why do you think the bad rap comes from, really? Is it just a generational thing?
I think so. I think it's, haters are going to hate, right? And there's a lot of content out there, and there's a lot of 24/7 media, and people write what they want to write, and you can either buy into it or not. So, I just think it's an easy... it's an easy thing to just kind of jump on that bandwagon and bag on.
I think it has something. I think it has something to do with. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it has something to do with social media too. That now, because social media is around, the millennial generation can get shit on a little more because there's more content out about it. Where in your generation, social media wasn't around, so people weren't talking about it and saying "Oh, those stupid millennials," or millennials are so lazy and all this stuff. And it's interesting, but I think social media probably has a role in it, right?
Yeah, and I think it's maybe some of the priorities of millennials different than different generations, so that is maybe off-putting to people, and so they just immediately kind of just can't relate instead of getting to know the human being behind them and trying to understand what makes them tick, and then how you can sort of walk together and forward instead of trying to make it the opposite ends of a magnet or something.
Right. Yeah. What would you recommend to millennial entrepreneurs that are looking to start their business?
Obviously depends on what business you're going into, but be strategic, use all the tools that are at your fingertips as far as content generation and this social platforms that you can gain a lot of have a lot of eyes on what you're doing, and then all the just fundamental stuff, be professional, do what you say you're going to do, follow up, add value, go above and beyond. All of those things still apply. All those sort of tenets of what makes good business still works.
Learn sales.
That's yes. Obviously there's selling to everything, and that traditional I think some people that aren't natural sales people hear the word sales and they get a little bit turned off. It feels like, hey, want to buy a watch and cheesy, schlocky salesperson. But you can be really good at sales by adding value and having an experience with someone that isn't a used car salesman approach. So
right, yeah. How do people learn that? Like, how do you really grasp sales? Are there resources that you would recommend that you've kind of glommed onto?
It's tough because it depends on what you're interested in. I think the traditional sales model of old school selling, of cold calling, and we were talking about this before the show, where you almost went door to door selling on some of the Windows solutions.
Yep.
That type of interrupting sale cycle doesn't really work anymore. And we really found that in our business, where back in the day it might be going to trade shows and just cold calling on booths, or literally picking up the phone and calling out of the phone book and interrupting someone's day to say, listen to what I have to tell you because you need this. Nobody cares about that anymore, and nobody has time to do that, and nobody picks up their phone. So you've got to meet them where they're at, and that's where we started talking about the content marketing of adding value and giving people some solutions that makes them do their job better or helps them do their job better. All of a sudden, oh, wow, that's interesting. I should pay attention to what they're telling me.
Right.
And then they have awareness around you, and then they're ready to have a conversation with you when they're ready.
Right.
And now if it's 24 hours a day, you can meet them anytime, meet them anywhere they're at when they're ready.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm still back and forth on that. I don't know that necessarily cold calling itself is dead. I just think maybe the process of it has changed a little bit, because I still do it from time to time and still get business from it, but it has changed drastically. I think you got to have those first initial interactions online and then take it to a cold. If you really want to do business with someone and you can't seem to get any sort of reciprocation online, I don't know. Cold calling is still kind of a weird thing, because I feel like now everyone's preaching that cold calling's dead, and then almost people are stopped cold calling. So like people aren't getting hammered by the phone anymore, and it's not as annoying.
Right. No, that's a great point. I mean, you still need to be creative, right?
Yeah,
so if you're a true salesperson, you can pick up the phone. And
do you send product to clients, like clients that you want to work with? Have you tried that before?
Oh yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I would. That'd be a great way to do.
Yeah, and that's for us. We can really differentiate because we're going to send them something that's really unique and custom and interesting, and it's going to be relevant and some piece that they can really use and be excited about, versus just the standard tchotchke that other people have just slapped a logo on and just mailed out. Yeah, and that really is just the same old thing everybody's seen before.
Yep.
So we're not doing that, but I think it's a combination. Like you said, it's not dead. But it's a strategy, and it's got to be strategic in the approach, and it can't just be, flip to page, 1,000 in the phone book, although phone books don't exist anymore, and pick up the phone and call someone. You've got to have, obviously,
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn's a great platform, and that's worked really well for us. I'd say LinkedIn is great from a B2B standpoint. Yeah. And then other platforms, I mean, Instagram if you're a B2C, and Facebook depending on what it is, but and Snapchat even depending on if you're going after millennial generation. But it's key, and I think it's understanding the audience you're speaking to and then using the right platform and the right message, because that same message doesn't work in different platforms either, so you've got to tweak it.
No, I've definitely came through those same challenges as well, trying to balance like this content. This is a little more my personal brand content, Mile High Mentors, and then business content, and like trying to post stuff I'm doing with active blogs on Facebook and Instagram. It just isn't getting any sort of like interest or traction, but then I do this stuff and that's where it comes in. So that makes sense. I think people need to recognize that you got to have different stuff for different platforms.
And I think you asked earlier about how can you stand out, how can you be different as a millennial. And I think millennial generation understands this better than anyone, but having a personal brand is important, and having a brand voice and having an opinion that's pretty intelligent and articulated in a thoughtful way, depending on what you're trying to get into, I think and using different platforms to do that, I think is a great way to differentiate yourself if you're starting a business or if you're wanting to get into a business. I do some mentoring up at CU Boulder in the business school, and we talk a lot about, in the marketing teams especially, I'll encourage people to learn about inbound marketing and what content marketing really is all about. Because what they can do then is, if they want to go work for a company, they can go see what that company's doing from a inbound or social selling standpoint. And if they don't really have a presence, or they're not really doing generating any content to drive any sort of marketing and sales effort, they can go in an interview situation or reach out and say, hey, I've noticed, I've been trying to look in your content marketing and your social media, and I realize you don't really have an inbound strategy. And let me tell you about maybe a suggestion that I might have for you, or that I could maybe offer to you. And I mean, most people are going to be like, oh my God, we need to get an inbound strategy. Somebody hire this kid. Right. So that's a creative way you could go about doing it.
Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting. And how long you been doing the CU mentoring stuff now?
A handful of years. Yeah. 5-6 years now. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on marketing in colleges now? And if you want to get into marketing, going to school for marketing?
Oh, as a father of a junior in high school who's looking at colleges, I could argue both sides of why you should and shouldn't go to school. But
what do you think?
I think it depends. I mean, it depends on the individual, each individual's person's situation and what they're into. But from a CU marketing or from a marketing perspective of schools, I think when you are sitting in a class that's traditional, that's dealing with traditional big business case studies that aren't necessarily relevant to today, that were maybe in the 80s, what Coke did, doesn't really have a lot of relevance in what's happening in today's market. And I think too much of the stuff that I've seen in big university settings is it's mostly big business, where the majority of people go work for small companies in America. And so there's always been that lack of, well, what does a small business do? Where I was having a conversation the other day.
Or even medium, like a 20-person, well, I guess that's still a small business, but like 100-person company, it's not talked about. And that's why I kind of tongue-in-cheek asked that question, because like I felt pretty frustrated when I got through with my marketing degree and spending my time as a practitioner and being like, none of this is relevant anymore.
No, and it changes so quickly, right? Moore's Law, everything's accelerating so quickly that by the time you're out of school and you're actually in an environment working, you're going to learn more by doing in the first 6 months to a year than you ever would in school, because it's tactical for that specific thing. I mean, obviously, education has a lot of issues. And when you weigh, depending on what you're going to do, and when you weigh out the cost versus the outcome, you could argue in a lot of ways.
But would it be better for someone who's kind of on the bridge of, do I go to school, do I not go to school, going out and actually, maybe interning for an agency like yours, or going and getting a degree? Where do you think more?
Yeah, again, individual. I think that's, rather than a blanket statement, I think it's really based on the individual's specific circumstance. But certainly, experience is a huge win in my mind. It's any type of real world experience you can get gives you a leg up, and it gives you tactical things that you actually are going to learn and that you can apply and that you can bring to the next opportunity. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times it's sort of this, you have to have the degree to get the opportunity. In my world, I don't really care if someone has a pedigree of what university they went to. I had a designer in the past who worked for us who was incredibly talented as a 19-year-old designer, was running circles around people that were graduating from design school that were coming to work for us. And he was going to graduate high school, and he was interning for us and wanted to go to a school in New York that was really expensive. And we started sitting down and talking about it. And I asked him if he had ever heard of compound interest. And he said no. And I said, well, why don't you, if you're going to spend $50,000 a year on this education to ultimately get a job with an agency that you've already got, why don't we pay you now? Talk to your parents about what money they were saving, because they had saved some money. put that in a fund, and by the time you're my age, you're talking about some serious money that you could do a lot with. You could start your own agency, you could buy a home, you could start another business, versus spending the money on school to ultimately get a job in design.
Yeah.
And that was a unique situation. And other kids, I mean, depending on what field you want to get into.
And what do they end up doing?
He ended up going to school because his parents said, hey, we've got the money and you're going to school.
Yeah.
And he's in graphic design.
Interesting.
And when, I did joke with him because with the roster of clients that we have on our portfolio,
he could go work at any agency.
He would have all of those. He would have opportunities to work on those types of accounts and present that he could legitimately move to any city in America and get a great job.
Right.
But I think for him, it wasn't about they were fortunate, and it wasn't about the money. It was about the experience.
Yeah.
And it's something he wanted to do, and that's why I argue it's really up to each individual person. But I think you really have to have some soul searching and have a really informed conscience when it comes to, okay, I'm going to shell out all this money for school versus an opportunity to go work. And everybody's situation is different. But if it means going into a load of debt, and then when you look at what the outcome is and what the potential earning is, and then servicing that debt and trying to get ahead, you might be putting yourself in a pretty rough situation. But I think it's really challenging for people to think like that and think ahead.
Do you think that's going to change a lot more?
I mean, it has to
years?
change. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
And I may be the last poor sucker to pay retail for college. I don't know, but for my kids. But something certainly has to give. I mean, it can't keep going at the rate it's going. And
now, certain things, certain jobs, obviously, but like we're in the sales and marketing space. And I would put a blanket over it. I would say if you want to get into sales and marketing, don't go to school. I would tell my peers that.
I could certainly see that argument, and I think that if you're really good at a salesperson and a people person, and you are in that sort of marketing, and you want, depending on what type of size business you want to get into, certainly just going and learning by doing and getting your nose bloodied and sort of getting the MBA on the street, totally invaluable.
Right.
I would absolutely agree with you on that. If you're going to get into something very technical or law or medical, obviously you have to have school. But, there are a lot of Silicon Valley VCs that are saying, we'll pay you not to go to school if you have a good idea, just start working.
Yeah.
And so ultimately there's a million paths. It's just you want to be as informed as you can. And I think just putting the blanket statement on it, I think it's good. It's a good headline, but I think ultimately each individual person needs to kind of really take an intellectually honest approach to their situation, and not just go with, this guy said that, I'm going to go do this. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are just in the stream of life, right? They're just plugged in, and they just, wherever life takes them, and they're not really driving. And everybody has an opportunity to drive. Ultimately, you get to decide.
Right.
So,
yeah. On that note, what are your three biggest tips for people that are listening to this right now and they want to create success in their life? What are your 3 top tips for them?
Stay humble, work really hard, learn as much as you can. I mean, there is reach out to people who can help, ask for help.
So find mentors.
Absolutely find mentors.
Yeah.
You certainly don't need to know everything, nor should you.
Yeah.
Everything's at your fingertips, and then you have to fight through the noise to get good advice. But I think, reaching out to people that have done it or are in a position you want to be. I think it's not so much when you talk to those people, how'd you get here? Like, how'd you get to the summit? Or how did, tell me what I need to do to get there. I think more importantly, it's about, well, what choices did you face when you were my age? Or here's my situation and here's where I could go. Most people aren't going to say, do this. They're not going to tell you. You have to ultimately decide yourself. But I think when they can really help you see the choices and just have a dialogue around what's next,
Because you're right,
really
there is no prescription, and I guess that's maybe what some people are looking for.
Yeah, everybody wants the pill, right?
Yeah.
Minimum effective dose.
Get rich quick.
Right.
Buy
and that
Bitcoin.
Doesn't exist. I think it's really funny when people are like, oh, I want to. This is like great. I want to have a business like yours and a building and do these things and just tell me what to do to get there. And they don't see that for 25 years, the grind, the hard work, and every day getting up and really working really hard and working through the challenges and focused and grinding it out for 25 years. And it just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, certainly there's stories that you hear, but yeah, I think that it's finding people that are where you want to be. Maybe they're 10 years further down the line than you are, 15 or 20, and then asking them more about, well, what choices did you face? What decisions were important and impactful in your life? Not how do I do it? Because everybody's got their unique story. Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. I really appreciate you coming down, man. Thank you so much. How can people find you? How can they get in contact with you? So Anthem Branding, we're on all social under Anthem Branding. You can visit our website, anthembranding.com. I'm Ted Church and on all social channels. Which one do you use most? LinkedIn and probably Instagram for me personally. Anthem Branding, go to our website. We've got a blog you can check out. We're pretty active on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. Awesome. That's how they can find us. Well, when you hit 100 million, we're having you back. Sounds great. You going to do that in a few years? Who knows? Sky's the limit. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. Guys, appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to go give us a like, share, follow. Don't give me that look, Julius. Take care, guys.